Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are going to begin with The Nightmare, a quintessential poem for the ICSE syllabus of Class 9. The ICSE syllabus of Class 9 features two prominent not cat poems, train poems, and out of them, one very important one is The Nightmare. The other one is Skimbleshanks, of course. But today we're going to do The Nightmare. And what's special about The Nightmare is that it tells us about the journey of a train. It personifies the train, which is quite unique. And this poem has been written by W.H. Auden in around 1936, thereabouts. And it was written at a time where the postal workers did not quite have a high morale. It was the time when the world was suffering from the onslaught of the World War, which was about to come. And it was also suffering from economic and financial turmoil because of the American Great Depression, which had come about 6 or 7 years earlier. But still, the marks were on. So the entire world was in quite a state of decay, and the postal workers were a part of it, and they didn't feel that necessity to carry on their job. So W.H. Auden, who used to work in a department of the railways at that time, was convinced to write a poem in order to lift the spirits of the people. So here we begin with this poem. So this is The Nightmare, crossing the border, bringing the check and the postal order. Right in the first line, we see crossing the border. What is the significance of crossing the border? You can say it as it is crossing the metaphysical boundaries between humans. Not just the boundary between England and Scotland, it is also crossing the metaphysical boundary between humans, the boundary of hatred, the boundary of jealousy, and several other such human boundaries, right? Bringing the check and the postal order. So what does it bring? In the second line, we see that it brings financial objects, namely checks and postal orders, letters for the rich, letters for the poor, the shop at the corner, and the girl next door. These two lines are useful in determining the train's non-discriminating nature. It does not differentiate between who is rich and who is poor, whether a person is a rich shop owner or whether the person is simply a girl who lives next door. So this is another aspect of that time. The apartheid and similar racist campaigns were going on throughout the world. So Auden uses this poem in order to serve as a soliloquy for that as well. He wants to explain to the world that racism and these are not fun, these are not okay. So that is how he says that. Letters for the rich, letters for the poor. The Nightmare does no discrimination. Very important. The shop at the corner and the girl next door. All right. Pulling up Beatuck, a steady climb, the gradients against her, but she is on time. Past cotton grass and mole and boulder. Before that, we'll explain these two lines. Pulling up Beatuck, a steady climb, the gradients against her, but she is on time. So here, Auden has compared the train to the life of humans, the very life essence of humans. What we find is that we encounter several obstacles, not just in our day-to-day lives, but throughout the years. Every obstacle brings many more obstacles within them. And sometimes we feel quite bogged down by these obstacles, and we feel like we cannot overcome these. So Auden uses the train as a metaphor. We'll see how it works on later. Okay, so the gradients against her, but she's on time. Now here two things are important. One is the personification of the train, or it being used as a metaphor for human life. And the second is the use of the pronouns her and she with the train. Now why has this been used? During that time, there was a wave of feminism that was going on throughout the world. And so everything, including the earth, trains, nature, and the universe, everything was every big thing in the world and even outside of the world was given the pronoun of she or her or any other female pronoun. So similarly, the Nightmare, which is supposed to be quite a source of power and inspiration for the people, was given a female pronoun. So this is important. And the other one is it being used as a metaphor for life. Let's see how this works out. Past cotton grass and mole and boulder, shoveling white steam over her shoulder. Shoveling white steam over her shoulder. This is an instance of alliteration. Keep marking the figures of speech, very important for the MCQs. and past cotton grass and moorland border. Yeah. Snorting noisily as she passes silent miles of wind-bent grasses. Previously, we had a line that said that the gradient's against her, but she's on time. Now we have a line that says snorting noisily as she passes silent miles of wind-bent grasses. So what words do you think show that the train is giving a lot of effort? The train is giving a lot of hard work into all the journey it is doing. What words in the poem tell us that the train is doing hard work? Whatever it is doing is not easy. These words, if they ask you to find out, will be the gradients against her, snorting noisily. You know, a snort comes out of a person when they're doing extremely bone crunching physical work, or they're not able to find a solution to something. But here it has been used for the former case. So the train is working quite hard to ascend the slopes, but it is overcoming it with success, and it is also overcoming it within the nick of time. All right, so it is successful in not just overcoming the difficulties, it is also successful in managing the time properly with discipline. Okay, so the gradients against her, but she's on time, and snorting noisily as she passes. These two sentences show that the train is in giving a lot of effort. And similarly, as I explained before, it has been used as a metaphor for life, as the poet wants to explain to us that we must work hard, and even when the hard work takes a lot out of us, even when we feel that the effort is really bone crunching, as we might snort out of effort, we must never stop, and we must do our job, our stipulated job, within the assigned time. So snorting noisily as she passes silent miles of wind-bent grasses. Now in this paragraph, 3 more lines are important. Past cotton grass and moorland boulder, silent miles of wind-bent grasses. Okay, these 2 lines, not 3 lines, my bad. What do these portray? These portray the natural atmosphere that was going on throughout the poem that Auden has portrayed. This vivid imagery through the words cotton grass and moorland boulder. Okay, so moorland and cotton grass is found in a moorland. A moorland is a wet and marshy land, okay, where a lot of moss grows, and cotton grass is very soft, fluffy grass, okay, and silent miles of wind-bent grasses. So Auden has been describing the vivid rural landscape through the fact that when wind blows in open fields, the grasses appear to be bent. So these 2 lines have explained the rural nature of the poem and the entire scenario. On to stanza 2. This paragraph or stanza begins with the line, birds turn their heads as she approaches, stare from the bushes at her blank-faced coaches. Now, Auden, through this line, wants to explain that the birds are surprised at the visit of the train, and they stare from the bushes at her blank-faced coaches. Now, the night mail is a mail train. What do we understand from that? It does not carry passengers. So therefore, it does not have any faces inside the coaches of the train, and hence it has been referred to as blank-faced. So literally in English, blank-faced means an expressionless face. So what has Auden done here? Yes, you have identified it correctly. He has personified the coaches of the night mail train using a human adjective of face called blank-faced. Okay, so birds turn their heads as she approaches means birds look surprised and amazed at the train, and they stare from the bushes at her blank-faced coaches. Again, her blank-faced coaches. Now, sheepdogs cannot turn her course. They slumber on with paws across. So paws across is like this. Okay, so you might have seen dogs sleeping like that. And sheepdogs cannot turn her course. It means that the train is so powerful that it cannot be turned or derailed by creatures like sheepdogs. All right. In the farm she passes, no one wakes, but a jug in the bedroom gently shakes. 3 things the poet has wanted to tell us here. That the sheepdogs cannot turn her course. The sheepdogs are powerless in front of her. They slumber on with paws across. In the farm she passes, no one wakes. No one is surprised at the arrival of the train because they know that they cannot do anything. Moreover, the sheepdogs also do not do anything at the arrival of the train. They just simply continue sleeping, as do the people. So what does this show about the people and the train? The relationship between the people and the train. So the people trust the train and the process of delivering the mail as so essential and their trust is so powerful that they do not doubt the night mail train, and hence they do not wake up. Hence, they wake up is a symbolism for suspicion. Hence, they do not suspect the night mail train of anything that could be out of the ordinary. Okay. So sheepdogs do not suspect the train. Humans do not suspect the train because they know that the train is going for the general good of the people, for delivering mail, and for all sorts of other good purposes. Okay. So again, this is a bit of rural imagery with animal imagery, that is birds, sheepdogs. So if you're asked what animals have been mentioned in the poem, birds and sheepdogs are found in the second stanza. On to stanza 3. Dawn freshens, the climb is done. Down towards Glasgow she descends. Okay, so the first time we have seen that she has come to an industrial landscape and that her climb is done. So remember in the first paragraph that we had encountered a part called pulling up Bitak a steady climb, and now we're encountering that the climb is done, which means the night mail has overcome all of her obstacles and has successfully reached her destination, that is Glasgow. Again, as we encountered in the first stanza, the metaphor for life, Auden has fulfilled that metaphor using this line, the climb is done. That means she has successfully completed her journey. Her journey is almost complete, not completely complete. She has successfully completed her journey and she has overcome all the obstacles to reach the destination, which for it happens to be Glasgow. Similarly, in human life, we must also overcome all of our own obstacles and reach our own destination, which does not necessarily have to be Glasgow or Delhi or any other city. It can be any sphere of our life. All right. So this is the significance of this line. Moreover, dawn freshens, the climb is done. Down towards Glasgow she descends. Okay. So D, 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 D. So this is an example of alliteration. More specifically, it's an example of consonants. Now, a bit about figures of speech over here. So there are two types of alliteration, assonance and consonance. Assonance is when vowel sounds are alliterated. For example, a tree attacked somebody. That's hugely illogical, but still, a tree attacked a dog. So the A sound is being repeated multiple times. This is an example of assonance. Whereas consonance is where the consonant characters are repeated. For example, down towards dawn freshens, the climb is done. Down towards Glasgow she descends. Okay, D, 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 D. It has been repeated multiple times, and this is its significance. All right. And going back to the previous stanza, another point of explanation where we encountered her blank-faced coaches, it shows that the train itself is stoic and unemotional. It does not have any emotions towards the people in particular, yet, ironically, it serves as a carrier of human emotions. That is a point to think about, isn't it? Now, back to the third stanza, my bad. Towards the steam tugs yelping down the glade of cranes, towards the fields of apparatus, the furnaces set on the dark plain like gigantic chessmen. Very important 3 lines. Towards the steam tugs, again, this is an example of, you know it, alliteration, specifically consonants. Down towards the steam tugs yelping down the glade of cranes. A glade means forest, and yelping down means that the steam tugs have been qualified with the quality of what? Dogs. The steam tugs have been classified as the iron dogs of the city and industrial landscape, and these sort of so-called iron dogs are running across the city, which itself is nothing but a forest full of cranes in place of trees. So in forest we usually have dogs and we have trees, but here in the forest they have steam tugs in place of dogs and cranes in place of trees. So this is vivid mechanical or object imagery in place of animals. Okay. So towards the fields of apparatus, again this has been compared to a lush field that is supposed to be full of corn or some other cereal, but here Auden has said that it is full of apparatus or mechanical things, machines, cars, automotives, everything. So Just like a field is ripe with fresh food or crops, this field is ripe with machines. It has got so many machines. And the third example of this is the furnaces set on the dark plain like gigantic chessmen. So furnaces are places where iron is melted and it is converted to many useful things. Iron is made into steel. But that's for chemistry, that's not for literature. The furnaces set on the dark plain like gigantic chessmen. So till now we have seen that in the rural landscape there was a mountain area that was called Betak, and the train had to climb. There was a moorland, but now the industrial landscape is completely plain, as we can understand from the words dark plain. Okay, so this is a dark industrial plain, the city of Glasgow. All right, the furnaces set on the plain like gigantic chessmen. So whenever you see like blindly, you can understand that it is a simile. So here the poet has used simile in order to tell us that these structures of furnaces are very strategic. They're huge, they're silent, but they're still quite powerful. You know, chess pieces don't make a noise, but when any chess piece moves, even the pawn can reserve the power. Even the pawn, when it moves to the edge of the board, reserves the power to do the maximum damage. So although these pieces do not speak, they are strategic, they are very important for the lifeline of the country, and they are also very powerful, which we do not understand explicitly because they cannot speak. So unspokenly, they are quite powerful. So in these three lines, towards the steam tugs yelping down the glade of cranes, towards the fields of apparatus, the furnaces set on the dark plain like gigantic chessmen, we can understand the Scotland's industrial nature. So if a question is given about how does the poet explain Scotland's industrial nature, we must understand that the poet has talked about steam tugs, the glade of cranes, fields of apparatus, and the furnaces set on the dark plain. Now, a few more lines remaining in this stanza. All Scotland waits for her. In the dark glens, beside the pale green sea locks, men long for news. Okay? So all of Scotland waits for the night mail. Now, this is a very important line because even before we get to the rest of the poem, it helps us to understand the importance of the night mail. What the role that it has in delivering letters, the role that it has in connecting people. In the dark glens, beside the pale green sea locks. Locks is the Scottish term for lakes, okay? So pale green is usually the color of a river that is, of a lake that is filled with algae, okay? So pale green sea locks and the dark glens are remote valleys. Glens is valleys. Men long for news. All Scotland waits for her, men long for news. These two lines are quintessential in showing the importance of the train and how people revere it in their hearts and how eagerly people wait for the night mail. Okay, on to the fourth paragraph.